Another episode of my psychology series. Today we got Gian Frusciante. So let's get into it. And a couple disclaimers. I'm not a licensed psychologist, nor do I claim to be. And I do most of my report work, because out of respect for the artist, I try to keep my opinion out of it until the very end for the conclusion, as my work is mainly to be a report paper in hopes that if I show these people's personalities in the right light, it can help inspire people to look into these persons' albums, art, biographies. So these report videos are meant as a pointer finger towards what this person has actually created. Gian Frusciante, Part 1. What makes us inevitably breaks us. Gian Frusciante wanted to emulate the energy of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He also spent around 5 to 6 hours a day practicing in his room in Santa Barbara. His parents were artists, I'm pretty sure, not 100% on that, which ultimately, allowed him to be super creatively disciplined, because when you're not in a family of artists, it's obviously harder to practice all the time because your parents will want you to do other stuff like math, homework, stuff like that. A lot of great artists I've researched have artistic parents. Same thing as if you play football and your dad's like a great example of this, Christian McCaffrey. His dad was a great football player, and Christian McCaffrey's a great football player. So Gian Frusciante emulated the energy of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He would go to concerts in California, and he was also super technically advanced at the guitar, leading him to nail his audition and be part of the Red Hot Chili Peppers as lead. However, John is reported by fans who met him backstage during the Under the Bridges on the album, but the Blood Sugar Sex Magik tour, and he is visibly in interviews super fluid and acts the same way he does towards reporters and fans, or acts in a similar way as he does to he's extremely earnest in the way he acts towards everybody. So whether he's on Fox News or whether he's talking to a homeless man, his dynamic change and character disposition won't be that different. He's reported by many people by being like this, aka he's a genuine guy. Leading to his nervous system to ultimately shut down, and for him to naturally feel like it was time to leave the band in around 1994 in Japan, leading to 4 to 6 years of neurosis. So the takeaway from the part what makes us inevitably breaks us is that John both loved to emulate other people's energy, but he also liked to stay true to himself. And he did both in an extremely fine line, because he didn't emulate the Red Hot Chili Peppers to make a lot of money. He did it out of purity. Part 2, Smile from the Streets You Hold. This was an LP released with Gian Frusciante was spending a lot of alone time in the Hollywood Hills. Gian Frusciante had an extremely vivid encounter with the Dark Night of the Soul in the late 90s, leading him to play a lot of records alone in his house with very little social interaction from other people. His rooms were extremely messy. There was blood everywhere, and his body was super lightweight, and his teeth were all messed up. Gian Frusciante is dedicated to energy. He is more or less an energy junkie, meaning he craves certain vibrations, meaning he will spend the majority of his day playing records and focusing on energy instead of doing practical life habits such as eating burgers and stuff so you gain weight and brushing your teeth. And he is directly quoted having this be his philosophy, as this is a paraphrase quote, but in the Blood Sugar Sex Magik documentary, he is quoted with saying that his core focus in life is creative expression, or creativity, the source of the source of creativity. Which leads me to the next point. In John's middle ages, after he encountered the dark night of the soul, he has a firm belief of creative non-duality in the midst of a hedonistic world. And what I mean by that is John Frusciante is extremely anti-labels in the means of what it means to be creator, as he doesn't see labels as important, such as good, bad, best, Rotten Tomatoes, Oscars, Grammys. In fact, in his Grammy speech in 2007, he said, quote, indirect quote, paraphrase, like, I'm so happy our music could touch so many people and be a source of joy, meaning he saw his time as the Grammys not a time to gloat, but a time to celebrate the fact that his music touched so many people. He also sees the tour life as a way that is a super rigorous means, as he's quoted in an interview saying many times during the tour he won't feel that natural spark of creativity, and therefore he just kind of like plays lead, and then but he's like super mental and disciplined in how he does it. Like when he doesn't feel creative source in a night, he's just gonna like strum along in the same spot the entire night and then spend a couple times pacing back to Chad and then go back to his spot. Which is part 4. His third eye compared to him grounding. Now John in his early 20s was super infamous and noted for noting that he was able to access parallel dimensions, and he used the parallel dimensions as a form of escapism from his normal life, which he saw this particular plane of existence to be an antagonist towards him. However, he has since developed to enjoy this plane of existence more, as he's a paraphrased direct quote from him is that this plane of existence isn't bad if you surround yourself with the right people. So he went from passionately disassociating to passionately realizing within this plane of existence. Last part is what we become ultimately tells our story. John Frusciante had a multitude of different phases in his life, whether it was the tour life after the Mother's Milk vinyl, where he was super aggressive and played a lot of downstrokes, to his experimental times after he left the Red Hot Chili Peppers for the second time, where he was extremely technical digitally, and meticulous in how he sequenced his albums to try to like make them the most like spiritually or energetically holistic. So John is a stream of consciousness where, depending where you look on his life, determines what state he's in. And a little conclusion on my opinion on the psychology of John Frusciante is John is a rare one where we see one of these people with an extremely sensitive nervous system reach the mainstream. A lot of artists who are super pure in the sense of they don't like commercialism labels, usually avoid the spotlight relatively well, and John was planning on doing that, as he did not expect the Red Hot Chili Peppers to reach the level of fame that they did, because he didn't realize that they would eventually assimilate outside of the niche that they were specifically for. But ironically, he kind of lifted them out of that niche due to his dynamic creativity. But that being said, so many different people not lifted them out, but they changed. So, yeah, and I mean, John is definitely on the more anti-commercialism side of things on the spectrum of, super commercial people. compared to super anti-commercialism. And I think, like, yeah, as an artist, like, you need to, if you're this sensitive and you like disassociating into different dimensions this much, and you value the energy more than anything else, like, yeah, it is good for you to have a super intense means in guarding against commercialism, which he does. I don't think he does a high quantity of interviews, and the reason remains or tours these massive crowds with the Red Hot Chili Peppers is because he wouldn't join any other band, but he would be just as content playing for 12 people. One of the rare artists where the quantity of people watching is an extremely indifferent variable. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed.